Yo, what's good, everybody? This is Jake with Synergetic Canine Solutions, and today I thought we would talk about the 4 quadrants of learning and how it applies to dog training. As a new trainer coming up, as an established trainer, or somebody who's just looking to work with your dog, it's important that we understand each quadrant so we don't limit ourselves, our ability of communicating with our dogs. Remember, our dogs don't speak English, German, French, Spanish. What they understand is cause and effect. And by understanding these 4 quadrants, we'll have a clear way of communicating things we like and things that we don't like to our dogs. Remember, our dogs are trying to navigate our human world. And so we need to make sure that we prepare them and help them as best as possible. So to start off, we'll go over what those 4 quadrants are. We have positive reinforcement, we have negative reinforcement, we have positive punishment, and we have negative punishment. Now, before we get started, we want to make sure that we define a few of these terms because it's important that we understand that positive doesn't only mean good, and negative doesn't only mean bad. It's very important to understand that when we talk about positive in the 4 quadrants, we're talking about adding something to the situation. When we talk about negative, we're actually talking about taking something away from the situation. An easy way I can remember this is a plus and a minus sign. Positive is going to be addition, we're adding. Negative is going to be subtraction, we're taking away. Now, when we hear terms like reinforcement, what we're talking about is encouraging behavior, creating behavior. Reinforcement is increasing the likelihood that your dog will do that behavior again. And when we talk about punishment, we're talking about eliminating behaviors, discouraging behaviors, or decreasing the likelihood that that'll happen again. All right, guys, so positive reinforcement is probably the easiest to understand and most commonly used in dog training. When we talk about positive reinforcement, we're adding in something that our dog sees as valuable to encourage behavior. For example, we use things like food, treats, toys, petting, play, as ways of encouraging behavior. Again, our dog has to see them as valuable in order for it to be perceived as positive reinforcement. But when our dog performs a behavior and we add something like food or treats, we encourage that behavior and increase the likelihood that that behavior will happen again. It's important and quite necessary that we use positive reinforcement in the beginning of a relationship with any dog that we have, because we need to take the time to teach them things that we like. They don't just understand what we like and what we don't like. So we have to take that time and reward good behaviors. We do this by adding in those nice feelings, by creating dopamine in the brain and creating love for wanting to do those behaviors. Positive reinforcement is adding in what our dog sees as valuable to encourage behavior. Alright, guys, so the next quadrant we're going to talk about is going to be negative reinforcement. Again, just because we talk about negative doesn't mean bad. Right? But what we're talking about is taking away something to create a behavior. So with negative reinforcement, we're actually taking away discomfort in order to encourage and teach our dogs to love going into that behavior. This can be a little tricky, so hang in there with me. But I'm going to give you a little example. If we're trying to teach our dog to sit by using pressure with our hand, we're going to go ahead and slowly apply pressure to their butt. And once our dog shows intent of going into a sit, or he does go into a sit, we release that pressure and we get the behavior we're looking for. Taking away the discomfort that has been applied, again, to encourage them going into a behavior like a sit. Now I know that can be very confusing. Sometimes it's misunderstood and misused. But maybe an easier example, a human example, there's a little beep that happens if you drive off without putting your seatbelt on. We all know of it, the annoying beep. This beep has taught us to put our seatbelts on as soon as we get in to try and avoid it. If we do really good, we don't ever hear it. The second we forget, we get reminded and we slam that seatbelt on in hopes that it shuts up as quick as possible. That is a sign of negative reinforcement. It actually helps to promote a good behavior, but there is a little bit of annoyance that goes along with it. Now that we understand how to create behaviors using positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement, we will go ahead and talk about the next two quadrants, which will help us to eliminate or stop behaviors. The first quadrant is going to be positive punishment. Now, again, when we talk about positive, we're talking about adding in something. When we talk about punishment, again, we're talking about eliminating behaviors or stopping them. So with positive punishment, we're adding the discomfort to stop the behavior. And in this quadrant, we can do that in two ways. We call them corrections and aversive stimulations. A correction should, in theory, get our dog out of any behavior back into the one wanted behavior. So if our dog understands a command like sit, and our dog chooses to ignore us, we would apply a correction in hopes that they will choose not to ignore us in the future. When we talk about things like aversive stimulations, we're talking about eliminating unwanted behaviors. Think of things like digging, chewing rocks, eating socks, chewing on your baseboards. All of those are behaviors that I think we can all agree are unwanted. And so to decrease our dog's likelihood of doing that, we would want to apply an aversive stim, something that our dog finds very unpleasant in hopes that he chooses never to do that again. Now, the timing of an aversive stim is going to be at the same exact time they are doing the behavior. Now, with both a correction and an aversive stim, we as the humans aren't going to say anything. The behavior itself is producing the consequence in hopes that they choose just not to do it in the future. All right, guys, now on to our last quadrant. We have negative punishment. Negative punishment is going to be the act of taking something away to discourage or decrease the likelihood of that behavior happening again. Just as we have things that we can reward our dog with when they do well, we can use those same things to take away when our dog does what we don't like. Negative reinforcement is the act of taking away the food they are eating, the affection they are getting, and the fun they are having, as a way to decrease the odds of them wanting to do that again because they don't want those things to go away. We all know that dog that when you come home is just so excited, wants 100% of your attention, and does so by jumping on you. Simply by pulling your hands away and saying you're not going to give them affection, by turning your back, by walking away, we apply negative punishment in hopes to deter the jumping, the barking, the scratching that can happen due to excitement. All right, guys, I appreciate you sticking around, listening to the video, checking us out. We are here because we love what we do. Just like how I started off the video, I leave and send you off with this thought. What is your consequence for doing, and what is your consequence for not doing? As trainers, we can play around within these quadrants and with every tool that we can think of to help increase and encourage the best relationship with our dog possible. We don't want to limit ourselves to one quadrant or another, and it's very important that we understand them all to have the clearest way of communicating with our dogs. I'm Jake. This is Pablo. We're with Synergetic Canine Solutions. You can give us a follow on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Give us a shout. Leave us suggestions. Tell us what you'd like to see or hear. Until then, happy training. We'll see y'all on the trial field near you.